Hello, good day. We are group number 3. Our topic is private versus public digital self. We hope you actually listen and learn something from our presentation.
Private self-consciousness. Private self-consciousness is the higher awareness you inquire of yourself. For example, if you look into the mirror, you are more conscious. What is good? What is good in lacking in it from this realization? Your behavior may sway away from what your character really is, and it can trigger negative emotion due to the higher consciousness you have. This is the self-worth and feelings. Thoughts and shortcomings are only known to the individual. Private self is described as the real you and neither your friends, family, or partners know it.
So, public and digital self. Public self, information about the self or an integrated view of the self that is conveyed to others in actions, self-descriptions, appearance, and social interactions. An individual public self may vary depending on the target or audience of such impressions. The public self is often contrasted with the private self, which may be similar or different from the self reveals to other. So what is public self? It is the view of oneself by others as conveyed through public information, public action, and interaction with others. The public self generally depends on the public for definition, but is also an individual's view of how he or she fits in an action taken while in public. So, digital self. The digital self is the persona you use when you're online. Some people maintain or more online identifies that are distinct from the real world lives. Others have a single online self that's more or less the same as the one they inhabit in the real world. Today, your digital self spans everything from your text messages to your sexual preferences, your brand loyalties, your family's pregnancy statuses, your point-to-point trips, your recent upcoming job status, and many other significant and insignificant points in between. So the digital self is the persona you use when you're online, like Facebook, like social medias. So here are the examples of public digital self: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and etc.
My name is Ivan Maysug, and I'm here to discuss about the public digital self. So there are two types of public digital self: the advantages and the disadvantages. So I'm here to discuss. The first one that I will discuss is the advantages. So there are four four types of there are four advantages in public digital self. First one is digital media literacy. Exploring and experimenting on social media can help your child build knowledge and skills to enjoy online activities and avoid online risks. The second one is the collaborative learning. Your child can use social media to share educational content either informally or in formal school settings. The third one is the creativity. Your child can be creative with profile pages, photos and video, and modification for games. The fourth one is the mental health and the well-being. Connecting with extended family and friends and taking part in local and global online communities can give your child a sense of connection and belonging. So, public digital self saying that this topic is more in social media. So, nowadays, social media is very popular to us. We people will use social media in uh, um, follow up our loved ones in other places, or we can chat directly using the internet. So our child can use social media in to share educational content, like like their schools, their idea about the schools, and what they learned about the schools. And also, social media can help us to to get more information to the other places of what they do in what they do of their places. So the second one to discuss is the disadvantages of public digital self. So the disadvantages of public digital self has a six examples. One is being exposed to inappropriate or upsetting content like mean, aggressive, violent, or sexual comments or images. The second one is the uploading inappropriate content like embarrassing or provocative photos or videos of themselves or others. The third one is sharing personal information with strangers. For example, phone numbers, date of birth or location. And the fourth one is cyberbullying. So cyberbullying is very popular to us, like bullying in social media. Some so the fifth one is the exposure to much targeted advertising and marketing. The sixth one is data breaches, like having their data sold on to other organization. So disadvantages of public digital self is very popular to us because nowadays people are very violent or very people is not thinking of what they gonna do. Some of us people is sharing about their information, like like their location or their phone numbers. So the scammers can easily locate them. Also, the disadvantages is some people is very sexual comments or images, like posting porn or the sexy photos of you. And we all know that nowadays is very common in using your photos in not in a good way. So to avoid this problem, just be mind that social media is not good in sharing information to others. Just keep quiet and just listen for the positive ones.
Good day, sir. I'm Harvey C. Parido. Take note and always protect your public digital self. How to keep public digital self safe? First, you need to blocking and reporting people they don't know or people who post upsetting comments or contents. Next is not clicking on pop-ups. Some pop-ups that seem safe can lead to pornography sites or ask for personal or financial information. The third is accepting friend requests only from people whose identity they know. And the last is not share personal information like phone numbers, location, and date of birth with strangers online or with people they don't know personally. Different personalities of private self and public digital self. People like to show their different personalities and behaviors based on their relationship with other people. For example, private self for the ones who are close to them, and the public self for those who are less close to them. Having people don't want others to see how they are in private. People mostly hide their private self and show other their public self, which can be the opposite from the other one. Basically, an individual only show its original self, which mean private self, to those who he or she can trust on, and not everyone. There are many ways for us to keep public digital self safe. We should always we should always learn how to protect ourselves and choose and act in a way that wouldn't risk us. First, we should block and report a person right away that keep on commenting your post or content in nonsense manners. Second, we should be careful on pop-ups that would suddenly pop in your screen. Do not click it right away because some pop-ups can lead your sites that ask for your personal information hack that could hack your account. Third, we should just accept third we do third we should just accept friends who we know or close to. Never accept friend requests from strangers. Lastly, avoid sharing your personal information like like address, phone numbers, date of birth, or any other details about you to strangers online, especially you don't know that person personally. Those who should be those who should be careful with our action upon exploring the digital world. Always protect yourself and be mindful enough in using it.
Psychology is useful to manage because it provides a new and proactive way to think about human nature. It also offers a framework for understanding why people tend to act as they do in organizational settings. The quote basically saying that the public self is a framework of human nature in order to hide their original self from others. It shows that human personality is different depends on the situation, which can lead to the different behavior. According to Nicholson, the behaviors change in different settings is normal in human nature. In other words, the environment which an individual live in drives them to pretend what they are not instead of what they are. This is why people hide their private self and shows others their public self that can be different for the first one. For example, people use the phrase that we can be whatever we want behind the doors of our homes. The home represents the secure and comfortable environment for an individual be in their private self. However, it can be any place as long as an individual feel comfortable with. Personality encompasses all the thoughts, behavior patterns, and social attitudes that impact how we view ourselves and what we believe about others and the world around us. It affects how people will respond to a certain situation and the sorts of things they prefer and value. Every story has two sides, and it is the same with personality because people usually behave differently based on the setting. The setting basically played an important role in personality change. Most of the time, people like to be open about themselves when they are in private as compared to when they are around strangers. In other words, people have different personalities, so they show their original self to those who they are comfortable with, and the other personality to those who are they less comfortable with. This shows that people like to hide what they like about themselves and don't want others to know about, and also don't let them make any judgment over them. Many people don't like people judging them about how they are or how they behave, which drives them to their public self according to what people want to see. We all have two sides of our personality. The first is the one exposed to the world, which a person is judged upon. The second is the one that we keep locked inside us, the one that speak to us, guide us, and even challenge us.
A factor affecting public and private self. An individual public self may vary depending on the target or audience of such expression. The public self is often constructed with the private self, which may be similar to or different from oneself, one revealed to others. See also social identity, social self, private self consciousness is associated with person rather than social aspect of identity. As high private, self-conscious individual endorse items such as my emotion and my feelings and my future goals and aspiration. As important to their sense of who they are, private self-consciousness is tendency to introspect and examine one inner self and feelings. Public self-consciousness is an awareness of the self as it is viewed by others. Self-consciousness can result in self-monitoring and social anxiety. The popularity of social networking sites. We've encountered several issues with social networking or social media sites, such as difficult to monetize, untrustworthy member data, a lack of metrics that make success, difficult to measure stalkers and others unwanted activity that destroy lives, and privacy concern, social sharing or social media user broadcasting with information to their connections, group of specific persons on a social network. One of the main goals of corporate social media marketing is to raise brand awareness by utilizing their existing audience to distribute information. The residents of the internet go through the same routine every day. What motivates us to share a single piece of content while practically everything else goes unnoticed? Academics and marketers have both researched social media. Something does not necessarily lead to sharing it. Typically, What leads a person to share something on social media is when it has a connection to them as individual. Be it political, emotional, cute, or funny, people want to share with others how they perceive the world and reflect their taste and how they define themselves.
Fear of missing out. People tend to the conversion of private diaries into public revelation of inner selves. The lack of privacy in many aspects of social media make the users more vulnerable, leading to compulsively checking news feeds and continually adding tweets and posting in order to appear active and interesting. People would like to remain updated and they keep on sharing themselves online because it adds a sense of confidence at their end, especially if others like and share their posts. Showing items left in stock is one of the best ways to trigger fear of missing out. A product that's limited in stock is perceived to be high quality and people want to buy it so they don't want to miss out what others are using. Here is an example. When people see that an item is scarce, they fear missing it and end up buying it. Another example is someone could be fearful of going to the hottest restaurant and ordering the wrong thing. What are the symptoms? Always saying yes, feeling negative, excluded when missing out, low life satisfaction, high social media activity, fast-paced lifestyle, concerned about people's opinions, the urge to be surrounded by others. The urge to be surrounded by others is a great example because people want to be included in many activities, and another great example in one of the symptoms is always saying yes. They don't want to say no because they fear they might miss something in their life and the doings of their friends. What are the effects? Mood swings, loneliness, feeling of anxiety, feelings of inferiority, reduced self-esteem, extreme social anxiety, and increased levels of negativity and depression. How can we help fear of missing out? Relish feeling of the loop. Great things are indeed happening out there, and sometimes you're not invited. Admit that you are missing out and there is nothing you can do about it. In fact, one approach may be to savor the fact. Take hiatus from social media. Try staying offline for a week or maybe even a month. Examples abound of people cutting themselves off and waking up to the wonders of the real world. The advice I can give to you is there is a whole world out there. Do what you want without asking or begging for the satisfaction of others. Next topic, disinhibition effect. Online disinhibition effect is the lack of restraint one feels when communicating online in comparison to communicating in person. People feel safer saying things online which they would not say in real life because they would have the ability to remain completely anonymous and invincible behind the computer screen. Apart from anonymity, other factors such as personality and cultural difference also contribute to online disinhibition. The manifestations of such an effect could be in both positive and negative directions. Thus, online disinhibition could be classified as either benign disinhibition or toxic disinhibition. What are the effects of disinhibition? Disinhibition is saying or doing something on a whim without thinking in advance of what could be the unwanted or even dangerous result. What are the causes? Dissociative anonymity, invisibility, asynchronity, dissociative imagination, and minimization of authority. What are the examples? An example is a group of students might bully a classmate online and then feel emboldened to bully him or her in person.
Benign exhibition describes behavior in which people might self-disclose more on the internet than they would in real life, or go out of their way to help someone or show kindness. One example is it can be seen as self-disclosure. With the help of internet anonymity, people could share personal feelings or disclose themselves in the way they are reluctant to their real life. In short, the online distribution effect describes the loosening of social restrictions and inhibitions that are normally present in face-to-face interactions that take place in interactions on the internet. Another example is somebody with social anxiety finding a community online where they feel more at ease opening up. So, in other words, they are comfortable in this kind of setup. It's like individuals with low self-esteem are more comfortable with online interactions. So, benign exhibition, which focuses on the effects, was designed as a continuation of an earlier study conducted on the toxic effects of online exhibition. So, using a factorial design, the study examined the effects of three online situational factors: anonymity, invisibility, and lack of eye contact, on inducing self-disclosure and prosocial behaviors. As expressions of benign online exhibition, so the study randomly pairs of adult strangers disclosed a dilemma and were required to reach a joint solution using online chat. Self-disclosure and prosocial behavior effects were measured using participants, self-reports, experts, and ratings of chat transcripts, and textual analysis of the conversations. Results suggested that the interaction between anonymity and invisibility had a significant effects and on the revealing of the emotions. So lack of eye contact, the interaction between anonymity and invisibility, and the interaction between lack of eye contact had a significant effect on the inducement of the first person words. The interaction between anonymity, invisibility, and the lack of eye contact had significant effects on the total self-disclosure score. Yet no significant effects were found for prosocial behaviors. A discussion of the findings with regard to the previous research on toxic online exhibition suggests that different factors play a role in the inducement of benign versus toxic exhibition. Then, more research is required to substantiate current findings and determine the nature of the contribution of each situational factor. So, another example of benign exhibition is that it describes a situation in which people get some benefit from the absence of restraint in cyberspace. So, one example of benign exhibition is it can be seen as self-disclosure. With the help of the internet anonymity, people could share personal feelings or disclose themselves in the way they are reluctant to do in real life. So, for instance, young people feel relieved when revealing untold secrets or personally embarrassing details in online chats. So, such self-disclosure enable people to establish an intimate interpersonal relationship sooner and stronger when compared with real-life face-to-face communication. So, the online exhibition effect can also provide chance to express themselves for people who are unwilling to communicate in the real world, like people who are introverted, shy, socially phobic, and
individuals with a stutter or impaired hearing, and also stage fright who are afraid of speaking in public like that. So benign distribution really um, is advantage to those who are a introverted person. So toxic distribution, which represents an increased tendency towards online flaming and inappropriate behaviors. These often contain hostile language, swearing, and even death threats. This norm describes the negative side effect of the loss of inhibition on the cyberspace. The antisocial behaviors caused by toxic distribution not only occur in multiple online platforms like blogs, hate sites, and comment sections, but also exist in the diverse forms which include cyberbullying, social loafing, and more. So, however, the distinction between benign and toxic online distribution is not always clear. For example, a hostile word in the online chat may damage others' self-image, but on the other hand, if the word is genuine, perhaps it may help the person on um, on the receiving and have a better understanding of themselves. So, considering these different subcultures of online communities, people may have various tolerance towards a particular social behavior. Another example would be acting as a bystander of online hate. A German study looked at the association between seeing online hate and creating online hate on teenagers. This study found a positive correlation between online hate and creating online hate among teenagers. So, toxic distribution. So, it's well known that people say and do things in cyberspace that they wouldn't ordinarily say or do in the face-to-face world. They loosen up, feel more uninhibited, express themselves more openly. So, based on my research, so the researchers call this the distribution effect. It's a double-edged sword. Sometimes people share very personal things about themselves. They reveal secret emotions, fears, wishes, or they show unusual act of kindness and generosity. So this is the benign distribution that I told earlier. So on the other hand, the distribution effect may not be so benign. So outspell rude language and harsh criticisms, anger, hatred, even threats. So this is the toxic distribution. Or people explore the dark underworld of the internet, places of pornography and violence, places they would never visit in the real world. We might call this toxic inhibition. So on the benign side, the distribution indicates an attempt to understand and explore oneself, to work through problems and find new ways of being. And sometimes in toxic distribution, it is simply a blind catharsis, an acting out of unsavory needs and wishes without any personal growth at all. So what causes this online distribution? So what is it about cyberspace that loosens the psychological barriers that block the release of these inner feelings and needs? Several factors at play. For some people, one or two of them produces the lion's share of this distribution effect. In most cases, though, these factors interact with each other, supplement each other, resulting in a more complex, amplified effect. In the book Psychology of the Digital Age, Human Becomes Electric, it expands with these ingredients that contribute to the ODE. So, the one thing that makes toxic inhibition more bad is that the you don't know me, this dissociative anonymity. So you don't know the person because it is in anonymous. So as you move around the internet,
Most of the people you encounter can't easily tell who you are. So, system operators and some technological savvy, motivated users may be able to detect your email or internet address. But for the most part, people only know what you tell them about yourself. If you wish, you can keep your identity hidden, as the word anonymous indicates you can have no name, at least not your real name. That anonymity works wonders for the distribution effect. When people have the opportunity to separate their actions from their real world and identity, they feel less vulnerable about opening up. So, whatever they say or do can't be directly linked to the rest of their lives. They have no own they have to own their behavior by acknowledging it within the full context of who they really are. So when acting out hostile feelings, the person doesn't have to take responsibility for those actions. In fact, people might have been convinced themselves that those behaviors aren't me at all. So next is you can't see me, invisibility. In many online environments, other people cannot see you as you browse through websites, message boards, and even some chat rooms. People may not even know you are there at all. So, with the possible exemption of webmasters and other users who have access to software tools that can detect traffic through the site, assuming they have the inclination to keep an eye on you, one of maybe hundreds or thousands of users. Invisibility gives people the courage to go places and do things that they otherwise wouldn't. So next is the see you later. So in email and message boards, communication is asynchronous. People don't interact with each other in real time. Others may take minutes, hours, or even days or months to reply to something you say. Not having to deal with someone's immediate reaction can be disinhibiting. In real life, it wouldn't be like saying something to someone, magically suspending time before that person can reply. So, and then returning to the conversation when you're willing and able to hear the response. Immediate, real-time feedback from others tends to have a very powerful effect on the ongoing flow of how much people reveal about themselves. In email and message boards, where there are delays in that feedback, people's train of thoughts may progress more steadily and quickly towards deeper expressions of what they are thinking and feeling. Some people may even experience asynchronous communication as running away. After posting a message that is personal, emotional, or hostile, it feels safe putting it out there where it can be left behind. In some cases, as Kelly Monroe, based on the I research, an online psychotherapist, aptly describes it, the person may be participating in an emotional hit and run. So the last is the personality variables. So the distribution effect is not the only factor that describes how much people open up or act out in cyberspace. The strength of underlying feelings, needs, and drive level has a big influence on how people behave. Personalities also vary greatly in the strength of defense mechanisms and tendencies towards inhibition or expression. People with histrionic styles tend to be very open and emotional. Compulsive people are more restrained. The online distribution effect will interact with these personality variables, in some cases resulting in a small deviation from the person's baseline behavior, while in other cases causing dramatic changes.